Welcome, 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 welcome. Sorry for the delay. It was all me. Everyone was on time, but I had a little technical difficulty I had to deal with. And welcome, everyone. So we have Brandon and Coleman waiting in the wings here. Okay, I'm going to bow out. I just wanted to say hi. I'm here, but really, I'm going to leave it to you two to carry on from here. And I'll be in the chat as soon as I figure out how to make myself disappear.
Good,
All right,
good.
that's enough of me. Carry on.
Well, I want to
Oop.
take the time to thank Soul for letting us come on our stream. We thought about doing this kind of as an AMA, but we love the opportunity to support streamers as well, and so popping in to chat with folks was kind of the first good idea we had about it, so we rolled with that. Coleman and I are here to kind of talk about a couple of the things that happened last week with regard to some of the Loot Pack 04 challenges that we had. But I don't know if we want to talk about anything before we get started, but I kind of want to go through, talk a little bit about how we make packs and kind of articulate that a little bit. I want to talk specifically about what the problem was with Loot Pack 04. And then I want to talk about how we've resolved that. And then also what we're going to be doing with some of the high rarity cards that we were able to get returned back to us. Anything you want to add to that, Coleman?
Yeah, I'm with you. Thanks, Soul, for hosting us. Thank everyone in the audience. We're excited to come and always like to be as transparent as possible. Share some information. Also, I'm muted.
Oh, okay, he said fine. Stop messing with us. No.
Oh, yeah, don't mess
I
with
was muted for 5 seconds. But yeah, we want to get the information out there, let you know everything that happened, where we go from here. I know everyone's excited to hear about how we're going to distribute these NFTs, and we feel like we've come up with a good system. So excited to jump in.
Perfect. Okay, so I just want to make sure everyone can hear me before I get started, and then hopefully no one touches anything while I get through it all. So I want to talk a little bit about how we make packs. So there's a lot of questions about that. It seems kind of mysterious for folks. I want to demystify it a bit because it's really not that mysterious. We just have a more analog approach to the way we wanted to distribute packs. It's more similar to the way we do physical things and how physical packs may work. So the way this starts is we have a full set of cards and we have all of the different variations. So we have, 1,000 foil primes of each card, 500 camos, etc. And we look at how we would distribute that across all of the different packs in terms of probabilities and trying to make sure we fill the slots. And that's one of the key differentiators for us, is that we have a slot type. We have rarities that go in specific slots and other rarities that go in different slots. And so in order to make sure that that all works consistently and well, the way that we've done this is we pre-mint every card that's going to go in a pack. And then those packs, we design how they're going to be distributed, in terms of the rarities in each of the slots. And then Dan, and I'm the one who typically does that initial design of how the cards are going to be distributed. And then I work with the team to make sure that they're comfortable with that distribution. We sort of look at what does that mean, how good it feels to open a pack, and then in terms of the likelihood of hitting any particular rarity. And then what we do is we give all that information over to Dan, and he uses this fairly complex RNG packing system with a random seed that generates the actual pack contents. And this is a similar process to the way you might get physical packs distributed. There's a pack of cards at the card shop. If you were to go down to your local game store and pick up a pack, that pack would have a particular number of cards in it that were in that pack before you showed up at that store and opened it. So we kind of follow that same paradigm. They aren't random at the moment that you open it. They're random at the moment that we generate them. And that's when we also generate the odds for each of the different cards and how they're going to be distributed by running a calculation against all of the cards that were put into the packs. And so we take those aggregated numbers and then we put that on the odds for that pack. And then all of that data is obviously encrypted and safely stored on AWS. We use AWS for all of our blockchain transaction capability. And then when you go to open that particular pack that you bought, the mint for that pack is tied to the contents of that pack. So when you open up a pack, you're getting the exact contents that you're supposed to get. So that's how we go through the process of packing our packs and generating them and creating feel of a good pack. And I think if you think about what it feels like to open typical Warsaken packs, you get a sense for how much care we put into that process to make sure that it's sort of handled well and that you get the maximum sort of joy out of opening one of those packs. Coleman, anything you want to throw into that or talk about?
Yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned how much we put into every aspect of it, because I remember how many hours we talked about, okay, so in a booster pack, do we want the rank ones to come first? We wanted the order so that it's exciting to open and things escalate, but you're not having to go through 17 cards to get to the. So yeah, every aspect of it, from the design to the order of the cards to how they're minted and how they're packed, a lot of detail, a lot of conversation with the team has gone on.
We spend a lot of time pre-minting. I mean, we have a pace in which we process each of the cards through each of the variations. We then check them and make sure that there aren't any issues, that there's no errors. They're full checked before they even get to that stage in terms of the image assets that are going to be a part of that pack. And that process really is a very, very lengthy one. It takes us months to finalize a set of cards so that all of the packs are nicely distributed with the variations inside the packs. The opening experience feels right, and that we're working with the number of cards and the different ranks that we have for that particular set. So a lot of work goes into how we plan for and distribute the packs, and the goal obviously is to maximize the products, the enjoyment that you get when you crack open a pack, that you're happy about what you get, that you feel like it was worth it. And we try really hard to balance the packs as best we can. And we are constantly learning from that process. So anytime we find that, and we'll put out surveys and ask people how they're feeling about the packs, and if there's something that they are saying about it in terms of how their satisfaction, we're looking at that data and seeing what we can do to make adjustments where it makes sense. Okay, so let's talk about specifically what happened with Loot Pack 04. So, as I mentioned, we use a packing RNG coupled with a random seed. So, for those that may not be super in the know, RNG is a random number generator. That's what it stands for. And it's processing randomness. But the reality is that computers are incapable of really being truly random in the way that people are. And so it's programmed in. And you use what's called like a seed. It's like basically a point of origin for the RNG. All RNGs use this. If you end up using the same random seed with the same RNG, you can end up with the exact same output. So I mentioned that how we run through our packs and do all of the packing. In the case of Loot Pack 04, we had a mistake. We had a very clear mistake that was done that we were not aware of at the time, where the RNG seed that was used for Loot Pack 04 was actually the same RNG seed for Loot Pack 02. This is a very unlikely scenario to have happened. It was an oversight by our team, and it's something that we looked at quickly once we learned about Resolve. And I'll get talk more about how we resolved it. What I want to do is kind of talk about sort of what unfolded. So Loot Pack 02 had a number of cards that were in particular pack mint numbers. So imagine for a moment that the owner came out of a particular mint number pack. Because the RNG was the same rarity was assigned in Loot Pack 04. Not the same card, but the same rarity because of the distribution process. So that would mean that the owner was in the same mint, which, again, obviously an issue that we would not want to have happened. Some fairly clever members of the Legion had identified this pattern. And when they noticed it, they didn't report it. They wanted, I think, initially to sort of confirm it. Is this really happening? And they kept it kind of, they played it pretty close to their chest. And so over the course of that month's packs, which was last month's packs, there were several packs that they kind of knew what was coming. Because they had seen what had happened in Loot Pack 02, they had seen what was coming in Loot Pack 04. So obviously, at some point, because there's a lot of Legion members, someone noticed it that was willing to report it. And that was Pasha, which was fantastic of him to do that. And as soon as we learned of it, Dan acted sort of, really quickly to resolve by changing the random seed for the remaining number of packs. So we took the packs down They updated the random seed and then took the packs back live. And it was a very quick fix. That meant that all of the cards post a specific number, mint number. I don't remember which mint number it is off the top of my head. Every card beyond that mint would have been, or every pack beyond that mint would have been using the new random seed, and it would have been absolutely fine. So it would have been just like a normal pack. I want to emphasize as well that Loot Pack 04 was the only set of series packs that would be affected by this. And then, as a part of any good corporate structure, we look at situations like this that occur. People are going to make mistakes, right? Situations can happen. There's a reason that we do these retrospective looks at situations like this, because what we want to do is create a plan to permanently fix that so that it doesn't happen again. And the way that we do that is we evaluate what took place. We see what permanent corrective action we can take to resolve that so it never happens again. And then we put that in as part of our process so that it doesn't happen again. And that's been done by making sure that the seed is checked against all previous seeds. So we're hopeful that that will resolve it completely, and there are not going to be any situations where that's going to happen again going forward. And again, this was only happening on Loot Pack 04. The wax packs were unaffected, completely unrelated, and all previous months of loot packs were also not affected. So I want to just kind of acknowledge this is a difficult situation for everybody. Obviously, there were a lot of people who bought packs feeling like they were going to be getting a particular card at a particular odd value, which at the time of packing was accurate. And as people buy packs, those change anyway. But, it's disheartening for everyone who had purchased a pack. So as we started uncovering and investigating what took place, we started talking to individuals who were involved, started talking about the situation, how they uncovered it, when they uncovered it. We talked to many other people who were aware of sort of the bragging that may have been going on a little bit by some of those folks. And we had some reports coming in from, like I said, Pasha and others who had discovered what was going on. So we were looking at some of the data that was coming in as we did an investigation to understand how this sort of evolved. So the members that took advantage of this, they didn't report it. We identified who they were. We identified the cards, the high rarity cards that they had been able to acquire. And we began engaging with those folks to see what we could do to reacquire those cards that were sort of higher rarity. There's obviously a lot of cards that were involved, but it's a lot of work for our team to sort of, try and put into place a line in the sand where we feel like anything below this we're not going to worry so much about, but everything above this point we're going to try and see what we can do to get returned. I'm pleased to announce that we were able to return all of the high rarity cards that we had listed to those folks. And though I think, disciplinary action has been taken against those individuals because they were willing to come forward and give the cards back, which is fairly significant thing to give back something like an owner or tenants. And they did that because they want to stay in the community. And it's because we have such an amazing community. The folks that were involved in this, they are feeling very sorry for what they've done. They, I think like many people in this situation, if you had uncovered something like this yourself, I want to kind of ask people to think about how they would personally react. Not everyone would react the same way, but there are a lot of people who might struggle with that particular choice if it was put in front of them. And I want us to have empathy for their position. They uncovered something that was a mistake, not on their part, and they took advantage of it, and they should have reported it, but they didn't. They took advantage of it. And the situation, isn't that different from, say, the Magic the Gathering packs years and years ago. It was clear where all the good cards were in boxes, and people were able to hunt down the particular cards that they wanted. People were going into card shops and doing that. Situations like this are challenging, and we want to make sure that we're trying to do what we think is right for the justice side of this, but we also want to have empathy for those that were able to overcome that greed to keep those cards and give them back to the community. Yeah. And I want to commend them for that. Coleman, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I want to echo what you're saying. It would be it's a tough position to be in, to have that knowledge, and then what do you do with it? And then with those cards that they have, because the cards we have recovered are 23 very high value cards. Tough to make that decision to give those away and to send them back, because we talked about recourses. We could ban those people. We could make it so those cards aren't eligible for claims. But what happens when they sell that on the market? And, the other thing I want to touch on is I was really proud of how the team responded, because there was no panic and there was no knee-jerk reaction. We didn't reach out and ban anybody. We didn't automatically just kind of overreact. We talked a lot. Like, as soon as we found out, there was a chat open among the whole team with us talking about different options. First of all, solving the problem, and that got done so quick. Dan jumped on it, found what the problem was, said, "What do you guys think about the solution?" We said, "Yes, that sounds great," and he implemented it. And then we started to investigate, and you and I spent most of that afternoon. I know you slept for a few hours, and then the next morning we were right back at it the next morning, just doing as much investigation as we could, trying to get to the bottom of it, talking to people on every angle of it. And within 24 hours of finding out about it, we had pretty much all of those cards returned. So it was a mistake, and we've apologized for that. But the way we responded, I've been a part of a lot of teams. When you have people freaking out and knee-jerk reactions, it can cause even bigger problems. And so the way that we kind of, what is the problem now and how can we fix it, and then just taking our time finding out what we needed to find out before we made any major decisions. And we really were letting the Legion know as soon as possible as we were finding things out, as we were making decisions, without putting bad information out there.
I think I just want to touch on that a moment again. Like, it really was impressive to see Dan's quick turnaround on the fix, attentive and addressed it as quickly as possible. Once we had taken the packs down, he already had his solution in place. He was working quickly to just make sure that he wanted to triple check his math effectively, make sure that this was all done the way that it was supposed to be done, and then make sure that it was updated on the system. And again, I just want to touch on the fact that those that participated in leveraging this information for their own gain, they have been punished, right? We've done some pretty dramatic things. They're not going to be able to participate in Warbot for a long time. They've lost a lot of their roles within the Discord community and a lot of XP, and they returned all of the cards that would have made it worth it to do this. So I want to just touch on the fact that it takes a big person to admit when you've done something wrong and to try and correct it. And I'm impressed with their ability to stand up and take responsibility for it, and to address it the way they did head on. There was almost no pushback from them. There was just wanting to make sure that they did it right, and that everyone, did it together. And we were able to return all of the cards that we requested. And we didn't request cards that we didn't feel like we wanted to make sure that the line we drew in the sand was something that was achievable for the team to manage. Not sure why we went to a black screen. When we went through and kind of looked at all the alternatives, there was a lot of potential stuff we could do, and it was going to be quite a lot of overhead for us to continue to track and make sure that the cards that were affected, if they were purchased by somebody else on the market, we'd verify who that person was. And it was going to be a big hurdle for our team. So it's incredibly awesome that they were able to return those, because it means that all of us kind of have the best outcome that I think this could have had. Obviously, if the thing had never happened before, that would have been great. But considering the situation, the reaction from everybody was really... Anything else you want to add? And can everyone still hear us?
I'll talk while someone lets us know if they can hear. Yeah, we're going to hit more speed bumps as we go along, and we will continue to address them, solve the problem, stop the bleeding, and then fix the problem as soon as possible, and then do a thorough and fair investigation and do what we can to fix things like we are in this. Speaking of which, we have these amazing cards sitting in our wallet. What are we going to do with them? We ready to go to that stage?
Yeah, you should go ahead and talk to that. I'll let you speak to it.
So I've got 23 cards that have been returned. They're in my giveaway wallet. And we have talked about different ways of how we can get these back to the community. The people that we want to give them to are the people who bought loot packs that were affected by this exploit. And so we identified when we believe the exploit was known to the people who took advantage of it, and what the mint number was of the pack at that time, and then when it was discovered and fixed. And so everything from that range, and I don't have the number in front of me, but it is in the news. I added it as an edit to the post we made in our news channel. Anyone who bought loot packs in that range is going to be eligible through a giveaway that they don't need to enter or don't need to be present to win these cards. And there's a lot of different ways we could give this away. We left it open to the community, whether you guys wanted us to give one entry per person who had bought loot packs during that period, or weight the entries so that the more loot packs a person purchased, the more entries they got. And it was it was like over 80% people wanted a weighted entry. And so we have a list of people who bought loot packs in that time. We are going to weight the number of entries based on how many loot packs people bought. And we are going to spread the giveaways out over 4 weeks. We're going to start this Saturday. It'll be on a stream similar to this. We're going to go for 4 Saturdays total, and we'll probably move from streamer to streamer, more of our awesome Warsaken streamers. We're going to give away the first 3 weeks 1/3 of all those high rarity cards, holding the owner out. So we've got 22 cards. We'll give 7 or 8 of the gold leaders, the blood foils, and the tenants, and the other ones we have out every week for 3 weeks. And then on the 4th week, we'll do a separate giveaway. Everyone will be entered again, and we'll give the owner away. Once you win one of the giveaways in the first 3 weeks, once you win, say you win a gold leader, you won't be eligible to win any of the other 22 NFTs, but you will be eligible for the owner again. And again, we're starting this Saturday. That's a very rough outline. Brandon, what else? What did I leave out there?
I think you left out how we sweetened the pot a little bit there.
Yes, I did. So we have added to the pot from our wallets 50 loot packs. So we're also, in addition to those 23 NFTs, we're going to give away 50 loot packs. Some of these come from the period of time when the good cards, or the really good cards, were being poached. So some of them might not have the tenants and the gold leaders, but some of them were also purchased after that. So they could have anything that loot pack 04 had in them. And so we're going to give those out as well. Those won't disqualify you from winning a loot leader. So let's say you win one of those packs, a loot pack on week 1, you don't win a decadent leader, then you can, or a tyrant, you can win prizes the following week. Whereas the main NFTs will disqualify you from winning in the future, the loot packs won't disqualify you.
Yeah, I think we've done what we can to try and smooth over what situation kind of came out of this. It was obviously not ideal. Folks that were involved have tried really hard to right the wrong. The team has tried really hard to right the wrong. And the benefits of that are going to be distributed in these awesome giveaways. And I'm excited for folks to be able to earn those through the giveaways. I'm excited that we're going to be able to target the specific folks that were sort of impacted. And hopefully we can all kind of put this, sort of behind us as we move forward and do these awesome giveaways. And hopefully that, we can avoid anything like this in the future as we've taken, permanent corrective action against, this kind of thing happening again.
Yep. To answer the Thomas B FTW, we are going to randomize as much as possible. So we're going to try and give away the same value of cards each week on the first 3 weeks. The giveaway we do for the owner at the end, it will be weighted. So it'll basically be a copy of the pool that we start with. And so it will be a new drawing. Everyone will be entered and it will be weighted. Brandon, did you want to talk about, are we going to publish a list of wallets so people know if they're entered, how many entries they have beforehand? Had that question, seen that question from
we'll get that up before Saturday. We have all of the details there, and if there's any questions about it, feel free to DM us as well. And then just the other thing I was going to mention, so we do want to make sure that we came on this Soul of the Cat stream to do this. I think one of the things that we're going to also do with these giveaways is try and cycle through as many streamers as we can, so that we're spreading our presence and seeing what we can do to help drive folks to check out these awesome streamers. If you haven't already been following, please make sure you do. Anything else? Maybe we can.
I think that's about it. We Soul said she was going to come back. She's got some things to give away. She has a Kraken black camo, which is one of the most sought after black camos. So she's got that. I think some booster packs, may play some games. We will post the information soon about where we will be on Saturday as well as the time. We'll try to do a couple different times over those 4 weeks for people in different parts of the world. But the first giveaway will be this Saturday, and you will see a list before then of people who are entered